Hello, Zeusers. Good morning. Today is the August 24th. Welcome to Ecclesia number 24. I'm going to talk a little bit about active set, where we are, and go through some of the timelines, go through some of the results that we have seen from some internal testing, and talk about go through your questions and talk about how we are strategizing on our apps. So let's start with uh, the active set. So the active set right now, we there are several phases of active set because the keys are the onboarding processes where you distribute the keys and then the shared the keys and then the send the secret shares to each other, and that's how you form the magic block. And that process, it requires interaction with all the miners and sharders. And it's been going well. It's just that a lot of people are on vacation, and not everybody is online. Some of them are remote. So it's and we have a lot of people. The good thing is the decentralization is working, but it is a slower process now because you have to get everybody involved. Which is why it's very important that the miners and charters do their job and take their job seriously. So it's a big responsibility to be a miner and a charter and be part of the active set. So that's it's going well. The process is going well. As I said, some people are on vacation. So we have completed step 1 and 2. Step 2 is a several part process. We have completed, I believe, 2.1 and 2.2, and now we're going to move on to step 3. And prior to that, we need to sort out the release code that we're going to use for the active set. Now, the release that we want for the active set would be very close to the mainnet release. So that's what we're working toward. We're changing also the configuration. So the configuration and the release would be almost identical to the mainnet release. So that's what right now we are working on, and that'll be proud couple of days that we will get the code released, and then everybody basically uses the code and they complete step 3 and 4, and then step 5 should magically the blockchain will start moving. So that's the process, and I'm hoping that this week we'll get the active set started. I know last AMA I said, hey, we will show you some results of the active set. The process took a little longer than I expected, and just things happen. And the good thing, we didn't lose much time because we're also changing the code and working on the code. So now we have, I would say, the very latest code that will go into the mainnet. We may do one more release before we go to mainnet. So assuming all the tests work out the way that it does with active set. And there may be some tweaking of the config parameters based on the geolocation of the server. So that's something we need to monitor and sort out. So in 2 weeks when we do our next AMA, I'm hoping that we will have a lot of results, and we will be able to talk about when we go to mainnet. And the testing process with the active set, I don't anticipate it'll take long unless we run into problems, because it'll be the same tests that we are running internally. The tests are load tests, Cypress test, and then we'll do DDoS and some selective chaos test, and basically we'll see if we get the same result that we were getting internally. All right, so so the next thing I want to talk about is where we are on the mainnet. So So this, if you look at the number of issues today, I think we have the same amount that we had last 2 weeks ago. So that doesn't mean the issues haven't been closed. It's just that new issues have come in, but it's kind of steady state now. Of these 29 issues, about 3 are, I would say, critical, and we can take a look at this. These are 29 issues. Most of them are being worked on, so they should be closing, I would say, pretty soon, maybe this week, next week. So by next week, I'm hoping that this will close, but then they will get replaced with probably post mainnet issues, since we have closed most of the mainnet ones. And then in terms of so let's go back. So there are about 3 critical issues that a couple of them that Peter's working on, and that we will include, and there's a couple of other guys working on a couple of issues that we will include as part of the mainnet release. Regarding some of the other items that we are waiting on, is Bluetooth is very close to being implemented, and then the ZeroBox highly available architecture and platform, that we have tested it, but we want to load test and do another level of testing. So it's not like we're not working on it. We're working on it in parallel, but it's a higher level of testing that we want to do with the load test, and make sure that we can recover from a disaster. So that's something that we plan to do this week. So again, active set begins hopefully in a few days, and then we also want to deploy live contracts. This is the for the NFT and DEX. So we want to deploy the live contracts, and then we will do this, and then so I've changed the timelines for the apps, mobile and desktop, because we're going through another cycle of testing, and this testing is much more rigorous because we have a professional tester go through it. So it's not just functional but UI UX. So we're having there are actually a lot of issues, and that we're hope to close all of them by the 29th, by basically the end of the month, for all of the web, mobile and desktop. Functionally, the only thing that we're waiting on for these would be, well, the Bluetooth is one, and also video streaming. Video streaming is closed, so it works on iOS, Android. We just need a few things that we need to do on the web as well as Windows. It's working on both on iOS, Android, and Mac. There are a few things that we haven't done on the Windows side, as well as on the website. So we expect that to happen in the next few days, because we're working on some of the other issues that are kind of slowing things down. In terms of tests, the Cypress is now finally showing green, which is great. And then we're adding more tests. This is from the mobile and desktop and phase 6, and we expect all of them to be concluded by 29th. The desktop Mac is already green. The mobile ones, there are some issues, and then Windows is a little bit behind. Phase 6, most of the tests have done really well. So I think phase 6, I would say, is essentially, we can consider it done. In terms of videos, we have all the videos for all the apps, the 4 apps, and we're just except for Chalk. So that's something we want to close, and then we want to add more videos for each of them, kind of going through some of the features in detail. So maybe a video about private data sharing, maybe about switching providers for Blimp. So those are some of the specific videos we want to release, so that it highlights what is different about what is unique and different about our products. All right. So I think I've gone through all of them. So the next thing I want to show is the web page. So we're revising our messaging on our site. So if you look at what we're messaging now, is that it is Zeus stands for multi-cloud storage for AI. The reason we talk about multi-clouds, there are two reasons why we include multi-cloud and AI. First, multi-cloud is something that we can compete effectively now, and I'll show you some of the test results with the likes of AWS, the traditional cloud, essentially. And the true multi-cloud is something that's been desired for the last decade, except there hasn't been a good solution out there. In terms of competition right now, I would say we only have MiniIO as the true multi-cloud or a multi-cloud alternative. They're also open source, but in their case, they don't have a network. It's a software license. So it is kind of expensive. Their platform is expensive. Servers are expensive. But it's something that you can do it yourself using their license and be able to come up with a cloud that can be multi-cloud. What we are offering is a true multi-cloud. I mean, there are others that would claim that they're multi-cloud capable, like Cloudflare, R2, and Wasabi and Backblaze, but they're not really multi-cloud. I mean, they're offering free egress, which allows clients to move from one cloud to another, so that they're not locked in. Like on AWS, you're essentially locked in, and to move from AWS to Azure or to Wasabi or us is gonna be painful because you have to pay for getting the data out. So in a sense, there isn't a true multi-cloud solution out there except us and MiniIO, but MiniIO is do-it-yourself. And then the word AI is important because AI is such a big mover in the technology space today, and every SaaS vendor, every startup, every application is using some form of AI. Now with AI, you need to protect the data because the data actually feeds into the AI model. And if the data is not protected, then you have a bad model to start with. And so it's important to secure the data for AI. And what we offer obviously is immutability and encryption options that's not present in some of the other platforms out there for storage. So that's something we're offering for AI, and I think that's a clear differentiation for people to use our platform. And then the other thing we're gonna talk about is essentially the control of data and privacy, user control of data and privacy. It hasn't come to the forefront yet, but it's related to GDPR and being able to reduce the risk of a breach, because you could ask the client to control their own data and have them present the immutability option, the upload only options, and encryption options. All right, so I want to talk about that. The last thing I want to talk about before I get into the questions is some of the performance data. So if you can see, we did some tuning on our end, and we tuned our code, and now we're essentially beating AWS. As you can see, the red and the green. The red is a download from AWS, the green is the upload. And if you look at our lines, these are blue as upload and orange is download for us. So for 450 megabytes, again, the test setup is such that the client machine is actually a high bandwidth machine. We're using like a 10 gig pipe on the client, but on the blobbers we're using 1 gig pipe, which is basically gonna be the prevalent architecture on Zeus network. You're using a 1 gig burstable pipe on the servers. Even with the active set, most of the servers we recommend is a 1 gig pipe burstable. And so if you look at that, and then if you're not restricted on the client end, and this is important because most of the workloads are done on the client end, and if you look at that, so I'll just kind of highlight some of the so if you look at that, this 450 MB this is actually incorrect. It's just one file that we're sending and repeating the tests 8 times. So that's why I don't want to look at the title, because it's a little bit deceptive because we changed the code a little bit. But the testing is that it takes about if you look at this data, AWS upload takes about 7 seconds, download takes about 6.5, whereas ZCN upload download takes about 4 and 1.6 seconds. Now, this is with this configuration EC 5.1, but basically any EC, I think we will do AC 10 in reality, so it'll be better than what you're seeing here. So that's the good news. Now, as I said, most of the workload at the client would be done on the cloud. Let's say I have a database and I am using a high-speed machine and a high-speed network, then I can store the data anywhere. So I'm not restricted in storing the data within the cloud that I'm operating, the compute environment. I can store the data outside the compute environment and be able to access that data very quickly. So that's the intent. Basically, we want to compete with AWS S3. So by the way, this is the I should have mentioned, but this is AWS S3 comparison. We're doing another comparison with EFS. It'll be somewhat similar. And then we will compare with EBS. All right, so let's go to the questions now. Okay, so there's actually quite a bit of questions. All right, so question 1, I noticed that okay, so let me rephrase this question because there's a lot of words here. It's saying, are there additional strategies beyond the hackathon to attract developers and encourage them to create projects on Zeus? Yeah, I mean, the strategy is simple right now for us is to go to Mainnet, develop relationship with flagship customers that can use our platform as an alternative to S3. That's on the enterprise end. The other strategy is to promote Vault so that people can use it to store their private data. And the third strategy is for all crypto NFT users to use our platform, our Chalk platform, to store NFT metadata. So these are the three industries we're targeting. The enterprise industry, the consumer storage industry, and then the NFT industry. So these are the three industries, and we expect once our app gathers momentum, then it's a lot easier to talk about hackathon and how they can build apps on our platform or basically use our platform for storage. Okay, so question 2. Okay, so question 2 is, what do you mean by constructing a private cloud? Could users run a parallel complete blockchain with miners, sharders, blobbers without being connected to Zeus? That's not what we meant by constructing a private cloud. They will be running on Zeus mainnet, except that they will be using their own servers. So when I say private cloud, it's meaning using your own servers to store data. So I could basically buy the servers or rent the servers. They're my own servers, and I select the servers. I select my own servers when I create an allocation on Blimp, for instance, right? And I push the data onto my own servers. So that's what I meant by private cloud. A hybrid cloud would be I have my own servers and I have other people's servers. So I could push some of the data to my servers, and for decentralization, I push the data to other servers to have a high level of redundancy and diversity. Okay. Question 3: How will you verify, certify, minor sharded blob or geolocation? That's crucial for GDPR compliance. So the IP address for each of these provider gives us the geolocation. Since they're very specific to the region they're operating from, and they are in a data center. So all our servers are in a data center, and at least I would say 99% of our servers are in the data center or in a commercial location where we can get an IP address. So every IP address has a region attached to it. That's how we know where the geolocation is of that server. Okay, question 4. What value, if any, do the 20 listed partners provide to Zeus? Many of them seem to be declining projects without a big future. Are there new partnerships that'll be announced after mainnet? So, we listed the 20 partners because of legacy partnership and legacy relationship. We haven't kept in touch in terms of how their individual projects are doing because we are focused on our own and we cannot really control their future, right? So, but we're hoping that once we come online, then we give them an opportunity to revamp and use our platform. Now, whether that happens or not, we don't know. It's really up to the execution of their execution of their team. Now, in terms of new partnership, of course, as I said, we have we're targeting universities and blockchain groups among these universities for partnerships which will enable them to use Vault and Chalk. And for enterprise, we're going after enterprises that are looking for an alternative AWS and better performance for than AWS. And that's something that, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we are framing or positioning our platform to be the multi-cloud storage for AI, and that enables us to position as a leader in that category. Question 5, have you considered doing podcast interviews? It can be a good way to get the Zeus name out there and explain why the tech is different from other storage platforms. This is something that we'll do after mainnet. So there are some interviews that are coming up that I'll be doing. So that's they'll be mentioned once they're done. So this is something that will happen once we go to mainnet or in the process of going to mainnet. So yeah, we'll be doing podcast interviews as absolutely. Question 6, when this goes live, will it be possible to select files on your computer and they automatically update every time you change them, saving them to the cloud? So we have a sync feature, and this is something that's not incorporated in the desktop yet, but this is something that we will add, if not for the mainnet release, but definitely in the very near future, because we already have it. It's just not done in the UI. Question 7. When can blobbers join active set testnet? Is this not planned at all? Well, after we bring up the active set, then blobbers can join. And yes, this is planned. At least we will, on our side, we will join the active set network with our blobbers because we want to do load test on them. So we want to run a load test, and for that we need blobbers. Whether it's something that we use blobbers from the active set group or our own blobbers, that remains to be seen, but we'll basically have our own blobbers on the active set to complete the test process. Okay, question 8. What happens to my data if I'm storing on Zeus and the billing fails once the storage contract is due? So the sad thing about this is that it will expire and you will lose the data. So what we have done is we have a process, a credit card process that we have on our apps to make sure that if you're ordering by credit card, then we will take care of that. So we will make sure that we will automatically renew your allocation. So that's a service that will come with the credit card. Now, if you're not using credit card, if you're managing your own tokens and so forth, that's something that you will need to do based on the expiration of the allocation. Now, the good thing about that is that you can renew at any time, and each time you renew, it's actually 1 year. So so you don't have to wait for that time to renew. You can renew at any time. So that's something that's pretty convenient, I would think. Okay, question 9. I think question 10 is related to question 9. So if Blobber retires or shut down before allocation expires, does he lose all staked tokens? The short answer is they will lose some. Because they will fail the challenges. If they fail the challenges, they don't get any revenue, but they also lose stake tokens because they'll be slashed. And that based on the staking percentage, the slashing percentage. I don't recall what the percentage is, but I believe it's like 10%, 10-20%, something like that. Question 11. In your opinion, how do you envision the long-term future of Bitcoin and its potential value? Bitcoin is a currency. It's one of the oldest cryptocurrency. It's the way all the ETFs are gonna be solidified first before any other coins. So I think Bitcoin will be introduced to the masses in traditional banks more than any other coins. So that's the first thing that will happen. So in terms of its potential future, I think it's there to stay for a long time. Now, this doesn't mean that it will be supplanted by some other coin at some future, in some future, whether it's Ethereum or whether it's us, but I think that Bitcoin will still be around for a long time. Okay, question 12. In the last weekly news, you talk about GDPR reports. Can you give more details? This is there is an easy way to generate GDPR report for a user or file to check which person access the file. Yeah, I mean, we haven't done the GDPR feature yet, and this is something that we will take up post mainnet. And one of the things is that, we want to work with the customer. So this is something we'll probably work with the customer before we, introduce this feature in one of our apps. We're going to be very customer centric from now on. Once we release, we're going to take in the requests from customers, and based on priority, we will basically do these features as they come in. So that's going to be the process. All right, so I think we're done. I don't see any questions. On the chat, I see there's one. YZ, thanks for questions. For self-hosted server, the owner can use a VPN, so the geolocation IP can be fuller. Yeah, I mean, they could use VPN, but I don't know what's the intent. If I'm a provider, I want to be a good provider. I want to scale my business. So, and this is I'm talking about blobbers, not talking about miners or sharders. Miners and sharders are active set members, and we have a pretty good group. We already, they're responsible people, and they have no reason to camouflage their IP address and not show where their servers are located. So I don't see that as a problem. But for blobbers, if you're a storage provider, it's in your best interest to show where you are at. It's for transparency, you want to show where you are at, and also to make your business viable. I mean, the whole objective of being a storage provider is to earn in the cloud business. So it's just like Uber, just like Airbnb, you want to earn. In this decentralized market, we have decentralized essentially the storage market space. And if you want to scale your business, you want to highlight where you are. You want to highlight how good of a provider you are, that you're in the data center. So I don't see that as a problem, but yeah, there could be some malicious activity that's going on, but I don't think it'll work out because you could switch providers on the fly. So as a client, if I don't get good service, I can switch providers on the fly, and so it doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, cool. I think we finished earlier than I expected. I guess there are no more other questions. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Have a great summer vacation, what's left of it. Probably a couple of weeks left of it. So have a great vacation, and we'll come back in a couple of weeks. All right. Thank you.